Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We have an exciting evening tonight. I just want to make sure, Bruce, you're not seeing my screen right now, just me and you, right?
It's you and me and a little background, but yeah, we're good.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you everyone for joining. And like I said, we're very excited about the evening ahead of us with Dr. Bruce Baird. Just a little bit of house cleaning before we get started. Housekeeping. We're going to allow you to add your questions in the Q&A box. So not the chat box, but the Q&A. So if you have questions throughout the evening, just be sure to add those to the Q&A box at the bottom of your screen. We'll be compiling those and use probably the last 10 minutes of this webinar to ask Bruce some questions. So we're just going to dive right in. Tonight we do have Dr. Bruce Baird with us. Bruce has been a dentist he was a dentist serving Granbury, Texas for over 40 years. He also founded Compassionate Finance in 2011. So Compassionate offers fully managed and customizable in-house payment plans for all patients that are seeking quality dental care. Compassionate actually grew into a multi-million-dollar company and is still one of the best patient financing options to dentists that are looking for affordable payment terms. So that's a really cool brand that Bruce was, a part of developing and bringing to this industry. He's also the co-founder of the Productive Dentist Academy, which is dental consulting and continuing education. And they're also a full service marketing company. So this company really helps dentists boost productivity and holds a variety of seminars and workshops. So just really all across the United States. And we're actually going to be attending their event next weekend. So excited about that. Bruce, welcome. We're very excited to be learning more from you tonight.
Thanks, Marla. I'm tickled to death to be here. It's awesome.
Yeah, we're excited. So the topic that we're going to be discussing tonight is how your practice can achieve unprecedented growth and next level patient satisfaction by offering open choice and patient-centric payment options. Today's discerning patients, they crave convenience and affordability. And if you aren't offering affordable monthly payments to your patients, you're likely being left behind. There are two factors that we believe are critical components for unlocking your opportunity for growth. One of those is a seamless access to multiple third-party lenders. And then the second piece is honestly an in-house financing option to complement that. So we're going to be looking at both of these options throughout this webinar. And as we do that, we'll view the case acceptance dilemma through the lens of both practice owners and patients. So Bruce, I'm going to share a slide and I'm interested to get your thoughts here. This slide really shows the trend for everyone offering multiple payment options. So love to get your thoughts about what we're seeing right now.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you go online to buy anything, or even when you go to the store, you're going to find options for payment. And I think dentistry has been a little behind in that arena, and it's time to catch up. So you see it every time you go anywhere. You can pay 3 monthly payments or 5 or whatever, and it's actually they're doing it for a reason. It increases sales, and so that kind of makes it worthwhile in the long run. So yes, it's monthly payments, but bottom line is they are selling more product.
Yeah, we've actually seen the stat that showing a monthly payment option next to pay in full increases the likelihood of a sale by more than 20 to 30%, like you just said, and that it can increase the average ticket size. So, it's more important than ever in today's market that dentists are keeping up with this new trend. And not only will this set the practice up for success, but it'll also provide affordability to patients who couldn't otherwise afford treatment. So, I know that has to be so empowering for the patient. And Bruce, I also know your patient has had a lot of experience with attracting patients who may have never gotten care otherwise. So I would love for you to share a few specific patient stories, maybe one or two, about how you were able to help someone get dental care who would have been turned away from most practices otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, it was a monthly basis. When we look back in 2011, when I first started compassionate finance, the thought process was, we just went through the 2008 financial crisis, and people that had money weren't doing the dentistry. I was used to doing, either full arch cases, implant cases, smiles, whatever it was, and they were hanging on to their money. And it was concerning because we were seeing productivity start to drop. And that's really when I started thinking about this, being able to help folks that maybe don't qualify for third-party financing, but really are really good about making monthly payments. And so that was really the part to where as long as I got the hard costs covered in our office, meaning they would pay a down payment to cover my actual lab costs, not the price of electricity or any of that, because we've got that regardless. And so, but bottom line is we were able to help literally hundreds of patients over 10 years to get dentistry done. And what happens there is the word around town, it's not that they're doing payments, it's just that what a great office. They're willing to work with you. They really want to take care of you. It's not something that you're, people think, oh no, in-house financing, but that really is different. It's not in-house financing. It is, I would tell you, if you're going to do it yourself, don't do it, because you're going to not know how to charge interest in your town. You're not going to know how to charge interest in your state. And what ends up happening is not only are you outside the realm of the law, but patients know that when they get that little statement from you and you're offering them monthly payments, they just kind of stick it off to the side. It doesn't have any interest associated with it, and you're the rich dentist in town, so they're not too worried about paying you. But when you have a contract that's signed that's charging interest, then what you start to see is patients are serious about it. And 95% of patients in the country make their payments every month. They do. There's that 5% that don't. But overall, I found it to be very, very helpful for folks. I had one gal that came in and she had basically a terminal dentition. She was sick. She had a lot of medical issues, a lot of medical problems, but she just couldn't come up with $7,000 to do a denture. And it was really nice. She says, I've got $1,000, or I have $2,000, which is more than my cost. And so we were able to help her. And it was really kind of neat. I wish I had the picture to show you, but she didn't wear makeup. She just, because her smile was such a mess. And the next day after we did her case, she came in, she had makeup on, her hair was done. She just had an immediate denture done the day before with extractions, but you'd have never known it because she was grinning from ear to ear. And that's just one story of many that you're able to help people. And I'm somebody who I like doing, I like helping folks out. I don't mind charity cases. However, people don't want charity. Most of the time, they really want to have a way to pay. They need a way to pay. And what ends up happening with conventional third-party financing is you either qualify or you don't. And as dentists, you're in competition. Well, all dentists are going after the same patients. It's the 40% that are approved by a bank. Mm-hmm. What about the other 60%? Who's helping them? Well, I will tell you, nobody is. And when you take the forefront, when you get out ahead of it and you start offering people payment plans, and then all of a sudden you start to see wealth creation in your own practice. I was saying last week, I was speaking at a meeting, and I just said we had one office that in the first year using the compassionate finance, they were actually doing more in down payments to cover hard costs than they used to produce. So they had increased their, most of the time, down payments are around 20% of the total cost. And they had actually 5x their production numbers. And that creates an enormous opportunity for wealth as a dentist. And we've never seen that kind of opportunity. We just waiting to see a third party option. And I really think that there's other options that have been proven. We've done over $500 million in notes now for dentists across the country, $500 million, and patients love it.
Yeah.
So do the dentists that work with us.
Right. Yeah, we are going to touch on compassionate in just a minute. And so we'll definitely be taking a little bit of a deeper dive into compassionate and some of the reasons that, maybe some practices aren't sure that that's for them. But I really want to focus for a minute on the multiple payment options. So, when a patient comes in, it's very important that you as dental practices are keeping up with the trend, that they have multiple payment options available, and that those are printed or presented in a way that's really easy for the patient to digest and understand and take action in a single tool. So that is, really what I'm excited about, the AcceptCare solution that we've presented. And, I know that you've seen this some already, Bruce, but, we've got the tablet view. So a practice is now able literally to put the power of open choice into the patient's hand with AcceptCare. And the patient will be able to view, here's what it looks like if I pay in full, and the doctor can choose to have a discount or not with the pay in full option. The in-house option, as we began to kind of talk to beta clients about this, some doctors said a lot of times people can't pay it in one payment, but they can maybe pay in 3 or 4. So they can just make easy monthly payments to the office. And then you've got those that need to explore more affordable options. So here's what that power of open choice looks like in the patient's hand. So pay in full with a discount, easy, simple monthly payments, or if they need to explore the multiple options, when they click apply now, we actually have a multi-lender platform. So this isn't just one lender. So it's not like you're taking them to one lender who's going to give them a no, but you're taking them to multi-lenders who could give them a yes and send back maybe even multiple offers. So you've got people competing for the patient's business. But then there's also, and as you've already mentioned, compassionate is one of the offers that can be returned if the patient doesn't qualify for third-party financing, and the doctor has the option to configure the tool either with compassionate being as the backstop if they don't qualify for anything else, or let it to be, one of the offers that's out there every time. So again, Bruce, you have touched on compassionate a little bit, but why don't you talk to us a little bit more about just the functionality of compassionate, how it worked and what it provided for your practice as well?
Well, I think that the big issue that we look at is it's tough on not only the patient, but it's also tough on the team. When you present a treatment plan and the patient says, yeah, I need payments, and you go grab, name it, Care Credit, one of the third-party financing off the shelf, and you show it to them, they fill out the application and they get rejected. That's no fun for the team. It's no fun for it's no fun for anybody. And to have to tell that patient, we didn't get you qualified. Most of the time they already knew it anyway. And many times patients would tell us, no, I don't want any monthly payments. And I'd say, well, that's fine. They say, I just want to do just one tooth, or I just want to do that. That's what we have a company that we work with that can do multiple. I mean, no matter what your credit, as long as you have a checking account, we can probably get you monthly payments that are affordable. Patients would go, oh, wow, okay, well, I'm interested, because they've already been turned down at Best Buy for a big screen TV. So they already know, but it's tough on the team. That's what I'm so in love with this, this new product that has, you got 4 or 5 different lenders that are bidding for business. And you've also got a backstop of compassionate finance. And in our practice, it's not like we use compassionate every day or 5 patients a day. We might use it 4 or 5 patients a month, but it allowed us to do really comprehensive dentistry. And I think it's we have gotten to the point in dentistry, and we have gotten to the point in dentistry where if third-party financing or a bank doesn't approve it, we have no other options. And I've asked dentists that, what are your options if they say no? Well, I don't know. I get their mom to come in and co-sign, or I get, yes, you can still do those things, but are you really, you're just letting them walk out the door, whether you're marketing or whether you're taking, PPOs or whatever it is, they're coming in with some benefits that they want to use. And we're not even getting the opportunity to use the benefits because they say no to treatment. That's also why dentistry is done 1 crown at a time in the US. 95% of all crowns that are done in the US are done 1 at a time. It's not because every patient just needs one. It's because dentists don't understand business well enough to understand that, gosh, if I could get some monthly payments coming in and have them pay, then good grief, this could really expand my business. I could be busy all day long. I could be productive. I could be producing, instead of the national average of 425 an hour, I could be producing 1,000 now. Now, when you start thinking about 1,000 an hour, that means you're doing $8,000 a day, not 3,200. And all of a sudden you're saying, would I ever, yes, every once in a while you'll have a patient default. And that's okay, because what we understand now is that it's something that banks have understood forever. Interest offsets risk. And so we're getting hard costs covered. We're not putting cash up, but what we find is, good grief, yeah, one person cancels, but I've got 41 other accounts that are paying full fee. And that's what I found to be really amazing, is that, and again, I've had people say, oh, I had one cancel, or I had one drop out, and I'm just ready to fold and go home. But yeah, you had these other 20, and your usual and customary fees are being paid to you. And with the interest, you're actually making more than what your usual customary fees would be if you did all the work. So I always ask this question of dentists: would you rather just do what third-party financing offers, which you can, and you're going to be in competition with every other dentist in the country, or would you want to have an opportunity to offer dentistry to people who are payment worthy, but maybe not so credit worthy? And so when I say that, you have 2 choices. You either get to work on them, or you don't do any of their dentistry. And if I can get down payments for the dental work that I'm doing, 20%, 30%, 40%, whatever it is, then now I have the opportunity during COVID to have checks coming in every month, whether my office is closed, whether it's open. We had so many dentists that really saved their business because they had 25,000 or 34,000 a month coming in off work they did 3 years ago. And so all of these things are things that we weren't taught. We're not taught in dental school. We're taught to do teeth. We're not taught business. But I can promise you, you have the opportunity with this product to not only be able to offer third-party financing, but as a backstop, you can also offer compassionate finance. And you get to spell the terms. So in our practice, gosh, we grew. We had a large practice anyway, and we still use compassionate finance on a regular basis. But we have checks coming in, every single month for it. So it was a godsend for me, because it allowed me to help people that I really wanted to help without my business suffering. And again, you have the option. You can either work on those 60% of those people or not. I'd prefer to work on them and have them pay me, which they do at a very high rate, without the worry that 1 or 2 is going to fall off and not pay.
Right.
So that's really the way I've looked at it.
Right. And, I'm a raving fan of compassionate, but I also know there's been some skepticism in the industry about, I don't want to carry the paper myself. I don't want to have any in-house loans. And so, that's one of the things that when we set out to create AcceptCare, we know that if the patient qualifies for a third-party loan, almost all practices would rather get their money up front. And so
Sure.
that's a huge piece of AcceptCare, not just a single lender that might say no, but multiple lenders that give the patient plenty of options to qualify. But, and this is one of the reasons I'm really kind of diving into the compassionate side a little bit here, is that we feel pretty strongly that there also needs to be that compassionate piece in there if you're going to get close to 100% case acceptance. But with interest offsetting the risk, it's not nearly as scary as some dentists think. I'm not ready to jump in there. So, I know you've had great success with it. We also have other practices. So I've got this example of another practice that's not yours, and I'd love for you to kind of talk through these numbers with us and the results that this practice has seen.
Yeah, I mean, when you start looking at this, this is one of our super clients that is still working with us today. But they did a total treatment of over $1 million. They had $264,000 in down payments. They financed $762,000. They still have $136,000 remaining principal that's being paid out on a regular basis. The principal that they've earned is $489,000. The interest they've earned is $228,000. Yet they've had to write off $136,000 worth of dentistry. And dentists freak out. Oh my gosh. And after you take out your portfolio management fees, which, is what we charge to do all the collections and follow up and everything else, paid to the practice was $623,000. You throw that on top of the down payments, and guess what? You've got a net collection rate of 99.8%, which is 100%. So my question always to docs is, would you rather do the dentistry and get paid over time, or would you rather not do the dentistry and sit on your computer and look at Dental Town during the day? I personally don't care if they pay me overtime, because I get to do the work, or my associate or anybody in our office gets to do that. You also look at, there's not that many loans. I mean, we're only talking about 1.47 loans a month. It's not like they're doing it 5 times a day. And the average loan size of $6,200. And the amount financed per month on average is about $9,200. So this is something that is very counterintuitive. It's not what we're taught, but we have several thousand dentists that have been doing this now for 10 years, and they wouldn't even think of doing anything different because they've been able to create such wealth. One other thing that I want to point out is, people think when people owe you money, like it's 30, 60, 90, 120, and your team's trying to collect it, that's not compassionate finance. What you end up with is debt paper. They sign a contract, it has a term, and it has an interest rate associated with it, and it's now an asset. It's not an AR. If you've got a over 90 AR, it's only worth 40%. Debt paper that's performing, you can take that paper, because it's yours. You could actually take that paper and go to a bank and use it as collateral. We had several docs that used it as collateral to buy undervalued real estate over the last 10, 12 years. We had people that have paid off their house using just the payments coming in off of compassionate finance. I had a good friend of mine bought an airplane, and he's flying all over the place. He bought the airplane because it wasn't costing him anything monthly, because he just kind of transferred the monthly payments coming in off of compassionate. So it's not an account receivable, it's an asset, and it's something that is worth, it's worth it to be able to build that kind of wealth that's coming in, whether you're working that day or not, which most of us, if we're not turning a handpiece that day, we don't make any money. And this has been a total game changer for dentists that get it. And
right.
That's what we're here trying to talk about. Hey, I hope you get it, because it is something. I love the fact that we can offer bank financing and that at the same time, one application, easy to go. So I just love it.
Yeah. And so, one other piece about this, and you mentioned this, you touched on this, but I really want to make sure this is driven home. This is a practice that's only doing, 1 to 2 loans per month via compassionate, because everything else, these are only the people who are declined by third party. So this is a practice that's thriving with third party and getting the cash up front already. And now compassionate is just the backstop for the people who don't qualify. And so the really cool thing about AcceptCare, I actually talked to the owner of this practice as we were introducing AcceptCare, and she was like, this pulls everything that we are disjointedly doing right now. This pulls it all together in a tool that makes it very easy.
100%.
So as I mentioned, the practice can configure it with compassionate just being the backstop if they don't get approved for any third-party loan. So they're moving through patients all day long who will be approved. But then when there's someone who isn't approved, they have that compassionate. Now, so we've talked a little bit about patients who aren't approved at all. But another cool thing that I want to show you is we hear a lot. Another real problem in our industry is the concept that patients are only receiving partial approvals. So let's take a dental professional presents treatment totaling $7,000 to $10,000, and the patient may only qualify for a $3,000 loan. Okay, so without that complete care approval, often you touched on it earlier. The patient will just leave because they can't afford everything, or they'll say, can I just get, 1 crown, or what can I do with my $3,000? And so what we've been able to do with AcceptCare, and this is a feature that I'm really excited about, is we call it loan stacking. So you take a patient like the one I just mentioned who has been approved for $3,000, and they need another, $6,000 to $7,000 to finish the treatment. So with that $3,000, the practice essentially has a $3,000 down payment on that treatment. They may also have insurance. So, now they could be looking at up to $4,000 down already. But what are they going to do to meet the patient where they need to be? And so now we've got an extra, if it's a $10,000 treatment, that we've got an extra $6,000 that can be financed through compassionate and loan stacked with that third-party loan to make up the complete care approval. So Bruce, I think you've seen this, but I'd love to just hear your thoughts on the loan stacking option.
Yeah, we oftentimes would offer a care credit or one of the other third-party funding proceed, one of the others, and they would only approve for 50% or 40% or 60%. It was always very rare, because of the size of our treatment plans, that they went the whole treatment. And so we would offer them compassionate finance, use their insurance and the money that's coming in off of the bank financing as the down payment, and then we get to reap the benefits of getting to do all their treatment in one setting, or in 2 or in 3, but get it all done, which is much more efficient. We're actually much more productive per hour, and it allows us to offer those payment options so that we can stack that loan on top of it. When one loan ends, then the other one just continues at a lower rate. And it's what I would like somebody to do for me. If I didn't have the money, but I did qualify for X, but I needed Y, I can just add something to it. And so we would have people come in, we would have loan stacking, but they would have $5,000 on a $12,000 case cash, and they would say, well, I only have 5. Now, if somebody comes to you and they say, well, I only have 5,000, and you start thinking, well, I'm going to have to go get third-party financing. What if they got turned down? Well, now that it's still 5,000. And so now that's when you shift into the compassionate mode. But all the time we would use a combination of insurance, their own down payment, plus their bank financing, and then figure out what's the remaining balance. Because I want to do all of it. I don't want to I don't want to piecemeal, and none of us here listening would want to piecemeal our own dentistry. If we had 6 crowns that needed to be done, we'd want to do it all in the fewest number of appointments we possibly could. And that's exactly what we do. So not only is it more efficient, not only is it more profitable, not only does it recession proof your practice by having revenue coming in even when you're not turning a handpiece, but with this option, with one loan app, you get all of it. This is the coolest thing I've seen in dentistry to date.
Yeah, that makes me want to jump back. I'm going to step out of this presentation and go back to the screen again, because what you just said is such an important piece of it. You were doing this, you know, in the example that you gave, somebody comes in with $5,000 to put down, you're almost afraid to ask them to apply for third party, because what kind of patient experience is that going to create if they turn down? And so that really is the beauty of AcceptCare, that when they click this affordable option, it's going to go out and see if they do qualify with multiple lenders. If they don't, you're not telling them no. You're
That's
saying,
right.
you've already, you know, put your, with your 5,000, the remaining 7 we can finance, and it's going to be compassionate financing that if they didn't get approved for third party. And so, you know, that's such an important piece. Is, you know, you talk about the patient, but oftentimes before we are even giving them a chance to get to yes, we've gotten 2 or 3 no's. They've said, you know, no, I can't afford to pay 100% up front. No, I didn't get approved by Care Credit or another lender. And, you know, you've got these no's that are just weighing on them and embarrassing to them. So why not? Just while the patient's there, but you've presented, here's your full treatment that you need, and here are your options, and let them choose, give them the open choice.
We have one office that has been using, one of our productive dentist offices that has been using AcceptCare as part of the beta test. And they agreed as part of the beta to only offer AcceptCare. We saw a 58% increase in case acceptance. I mean, that is like stupid cool. Because I mean, now, and he says, I don't even know the numbers. And we showed him the numbers. He says, I just know that people are saying yes, and we're getting to do more dentistry. This is the coolest thing. And we've seen that across the beta tests that we've done. And so I'm just totally stoked about having something like this to make it easier on my team. There's no problem. This is what we offer. And it has everything right there for them, you know, convenient monthly payments. They either get approved, they don't, and you're not having to say no. And I just love that. Right.
Yeah, that's so important to not have to say no. And you know, we do love that feature of being able just to put in their hands. Now, you know, a little background on the teams that brought these two the solutions all together, you know. Compassionate finance was, you know, the Bruce Baird brainchild from you know, back in, I think you said 2011. And so the combination of forces with OrthoFi happened about 1.5 years ago. And so a little bit about OrthoFi is the background of OrthoFi is that we have been helping orthodontic practices get more yes for nearly 10 years. And so, you know, the learnings that we have from over 1 million case starts in orthodontics showed us that it's really putting the power of open choice in the patient's hand that gets that yes. They've got to, in a very non-confrontational way, have the choice to say what works within my monthly budget. And, you know, we knew that. And when we began to work with compassionate finance, that we quickly learned that the dentists are experiencing the same thing orthodontists are experiencing. We want more case acceptance. We want more yes. And so I really think we've got the best of all worlds here. We've got a seamless flow that takes the patient to an easy, you know, choice right there in front of them. We've got multiple third-party lenders, so you're not getting the no before you can ever say yes. And then we have compassionate there as a backstop. And compassionate can also be loan stacked. So lots there. So I think we've driven home the point that, multiple payment options plus an in-house is super important. But I also think there's one other critical point that has to be part of any conversation about increasing case acceptance. And Bruce, I know you received a lot of same day yes because you had such flexible financial options. But I would love to know what your follow-up looked like if you didn't get yes that same day.
Yeah, what we ended up, each one of my treatment coordinators that work chairside, do the case presentations along with me, they would keep a notebook, and that notebook would have any patient that didn't say yes. And then during the week or the next week, they would follow up. And our goal was to follow up once a week until they either said, leave me alone, or yes, I'm ready to do it. Or, they'd ask more questions, or can I do less, or can I do more? That was our system in our office. It worked, but it sure put a lot of strain on my team. The average practice out there that's banging and really going after it all day long, I mean, they just don't have time to follow up. It's kind of like we've talked about with other products that we brought to the market, like a Bella. They don't have time to make the phone calls. They don't have time to do that. And so what ends up happening is they don't do it, or they just call the big price, deal. So it's part of a busy practice. A lot of stuff falls through the cracks, a ton. And I'm really impressed with the follow-up that AcceptCare is doing. I'm really impressed with the ability to be able to automate it. We're in the age of AI now, and this is able to automate to follow up and let the patients have opportunities to respond. And I wish we'd have had it 20 years ago, not just 11 years ago.
Right. Yep. So let's take a look at that. What you were describing that was going on in your practice prior to AcceptCare does seem like a pretty manual process and easy for things to get lost, dropped in the cracks or whatever you call it. So what AcceptCare has done is we have automated the pending patient follow-up with text reminders. And so we've done some studies about the best cadence for this. And so the patient will actually get a message the day after. So they've been in your office and, about the time they're about to think about something else the next day, they're ready to move on. If they haven't made their mind up, they're getting a reminder one day after and again about a week later. So keeping it, front of mind. And then they'll also continue to get reminders about every 30 days for up to 90 days. And so what they're getting here is not only the text reminder, but the link to view their treatment plan that you presented to them on the tablet in the office, as well as explore their financial options. So, maybe there's someone that really did need to talk this over with their spouse before making the call about the accepting treatment. And so they're able to do that from home. And the really cool thing in our initial beta, 32% of the accepted plans happened 7 days post-treatment. So we know that this follow-up is working. So not only is it working, but think about the time that it's saving your practice staff from managing all that follow-up.
Think about everybody that's listening to this. Think about how many people walk out the door without scheduling and without accepting treatment. Think about that. We keep track of that actually in our practice, but what I will tell you is just imagine that number and imagine 32% automatically accepting. It's ridiculous. I mean, it will allow you to continue to grow your business. Our average with Productive Dentist Academy, we follow a lot of these principles, but our average practices are growing at about a 13.6% year-over-year rate, and they do it year after year after year after year. But having this, oh my gosh, it's going to be more than a 13%. It's, I see our practices with AcceptCare at 20% growth year over year, if not more. So like I say, I'm stoked.
Yeah, we're excited about the results of our initial beta. We're going to have open up for questions in a minute. I think before we get to all the questions, I'm going to talk about a couple opportunities for people who are listening in on this call. We're commercial launch for AcceptCare is in October, so we're right there knocking on the door. We would accept a couple more beta practices if you kind of meet these terms. So AcceptCare must be used to present financial arrangements to every single patient that has treatment recommended. Must process all payments for accepted treatment via the AcceptCare platform. And then it's attend scheduled calls with us. And we also want this to be a practice that is willing to have compassionate as one of the offers. And so really the goal here is like Bruce mentioned, we have several practices that have seen case acceptance double. I think one of my favorite examples, the practice was at about 23% case acceptance. And last I heard, they were at 58%. So, some really great results, but we'd love to have a few more practices that we're able to show to the marketplace that says, here's how it worked for me. And so we would probably accept one or two more beta practices, and the beta rewards also for any TC who uses it properly every month for the beta period, $150 gift card for the TC. So if that's something that you're interested in, we'd love to hear from you. Or if you're just interested in trying AcceptCare once it's commercially available, which will be in October, the monthly fee is going to be $3.99 per month for AcceptCare, but we're offering a special with this QR code that if you sign up now for implementation, sign up in the next couple of weeks before the commercial launch, we will get you on the list to get implemented right away and be ready in October for that launch. So I'm going to keep this up for a minute. So if anyone wants to explore, and I'm going to jump into a couple questions. So remember that if you do have any questions, put them in the Q&A box here at the bottom of your screen. So Bruce, one thing I thought we could start with on this, a question that I've heard a lot. So you made a great point about, happy patients and helping patients. And one thing I heard a consultant say in the past is you don't want to take on patients that can't afford to pay you up front, because then also their referrals will all have financial difficulties, and it's just kind of a snowball. Personally, I would love to disprove that statement. I think, especially in today's economy, we really need to shift from thinking that the need for a monthly payment is equivalent to financial difficulties. I think that's just not true in the economy we live in. I recently saw a statistic that only 4 in 10 consumers could afford an unplanned expense of over $1,000. My guess is that number is even lower now
around
with the
400 now
situation. So, if they can't afford an unplanned expense of $1,000, but they could afford a monthly payment that works in their budget. So, how are we going to get beyond this? So I'd love to hear what sort of referrals you received from the patients that you were able to treat who actually needed a monthly payment.
Sure. The thing that you just said about consultants recommending only doing work on people that can, qualify for that third-party financing, they're actually paid to say that by the banks and the third-party financing. So there's very few consultants out there that aren't being paid to speak on behalf of third-party financing. So I have to say that first. But one of the cool things about being able to do dentistry in a much less stressful way, which is the financial conversation is always the most stressful in an office. People think, oh, I have to have somebody from the bank who's used to talking to consumers. I have to have somebody from, no, you could have anybody do this. Anybody in your team that's trained can present the treatment options because it's right there for them. Now, when that the ease of that, and what we saw in our practice was the ease, low stress presentation. All of a sudden, people, when they're out in the community, they're not going to say, oh yeah, they only charge X% interest and they'll do monthly payments. They don't talk about it that way. They talk about, they say, man, yeah, you got to go see them down there. They'll work with you. They'll figure out a way to get it done. And we would have, I'm in a town of 6,000 people, and for 38 years, we've seen over 100 patients a month. So we've either seen everybody in our town 5 times, or, our average new patient would literally come from over 50 miles. So, and we're in a small town, but why? Because we would work with them. They would come from 90 miles away in a little town somewhere else, and all of a sudden we'd have their friends and someone else come. And so it's building your practice with people who value the dentistry that you're doing, and they see the results, and then all of a sudden you've got the opportunity to help other people. And that was one of the cool things for me in doing compassionate finance. I always thought, well, I'm only going to get people who can't afford it, but that's really not true. We got people across the board that from all walks of life. And I always say that I've been hosed by more people driving crystal blue Mercedes than I have by migrant farm workers from the pecan orchard, because, so I don't get fooled. I don't care what kind of car they're driving. When they walk in, I'm going to do a comprehensive exam. I'm going to tell them what I would do if it was me. This is, if that's my mouth. And then they'll say, I'm having financial problems. And I will tell them, if I was in that situation, then this is what I would do. If I've told them they need 12 crowns and a full mouth rehab and all this, and they go, oh my gosh, I there's no way I can do that. I have 4 kids in college or whatever. I go, okay, well, let's do this. Let's step back. Let's look at the reason we are where we are. Let's get your gums in better health. Let's get these teeth that have abscesses fixed. We're going to work with you no matter how we have to do it. And it's not all about doing full mouth rehabs on everybody. It's about taking care of people. And comprehensive exam is the only way you can do that. So those are the things that I look at. But people respect your office. They're going to respect you, and because you're willing to work with them. And there's never really, oh my gosh, yeah, even if we told you, even if somebody got not necessarily approved, but call for confirmation or call for manual approval, which is what we used to do with compassionate. They've changed bank accounts. They're not very good as far as their money, then I wouldn't approve them for that much. I'd just say, let's just do 800 and you put 400 down. I'd take a bigger down payment. I'd still help them, where I could, even though they weren't a good steward of their money. So it just allowed us a lot more flexibility. And when you have flexibility and you have options for patients to say yes, you're gonna do extremely well in your practice. I don't care what kind of town you're in. So that's my take on it.
So we do have a question about which financing companies we're participating with. And so I'll take this one, which companies are we participating with now and which ones in the future. So we're not, once a customer is under the hood, once you're a customer, you will be able to select the ranges of offers that you are comfortable with. So we're not just blanket announcing the actual lenders yet, but we do have 4 active lenders plus compassionate right now. And we have been very diligent. So we've, of those, and we're also, there's 2 others that we're working to board. Of those lenders that we've talked to, we've been real diligent about making sure that we have the entire credit spectrum covered. So there is a lender there that does the subprime and has good offers in the subprime category. There is, a great prime lender, a kind of mid-range lender. And as we were vetting these, one of our things was you have to be as good or better than the best super prime. You have to be as good or better than the best subprime. And, we really didn't even entertain the conversations if they weren't giving us something that we knew would be of value to the practice. And that's not just about the percentages charged to the patient. It's also about, what the doctor pays for for those loans. And so we've really done a great job of vetting that out. And then you will see the offers that would be returned from each loan as you're configuring your particular tool for your practice. You'll see the offers that would be returned from each lender. And if there are some that you don't like, maybe in the subprime, you're just like, I'm not willing to pay that percentage. So, maybe you want that one, you don't want any offers from that particular lender. You can really customize that. So that's a question that we get pretty often about our lenders. And, and as far as future, what we're working toward for the future, we've had conversations with just about every lender that's in our industry, and a lot that are outside of our industry looking for the best. So lots of conversations still happening. So I expect this just to grow as the solution takes off and us have even more lenders. So those are our questions for right now, unless anyone wants to throw one more in the chat. I think we would have time for that. But if not, Bruce, super great to have you with us tonight. I always love your stories, and I would love I would love to hear one more story. I just always am fascinated by the Bruce stories. So I would love to hear one more story just about how, you were able to take a patient or two that, probably wouldn't have been able to get care anywhere else, and just provide them with an experience that really changed their life.
The one that stands out to me more than any is a young man who had drug issues and had really, as a young kid, was on IV drug use and, from heroin to all kinds of stuff. And he came to the office. He was totally clean for 3 years. His mouth was a total mess. He was working, had a great job. His attitude was amazing. And he had good dental insurance, which good dental insurance means $1,500 a year, and that's basically it. But he needed a lot of dentistry done. And we were able to work through it. He actually got approved for a little bit of the third-party financing. He also had saved, he had insurance. He also had saved up $6,000 because he knew he wanted to get his smile, because he knew that was holding him back. And all of a sudden, we finished his case, and this kid was like a rocket ship. I mean, he has gone from being where he was to going back to school to becoming a emergency room in the ambulance, what do they call them? Anyway, he was doing that. Then now he's going to nursing school, and he wants to get his nursing degree with an eventual hope to become a PA. And that's the kind of stuff that I don't know what I would have done before if I hadn't had the options that we have. But I was more than happy. And truthfully, I probably would have done the case for free, just because I cared about this kid. And I thought, gosh, but he feels much better about it because he paid for it, and he worked hard to pay for it. And that's really in this time in life now where, people are expecting everything to be given to him. No, he wanted to be a part of the solution. And that gave him better self-esteem, and it really helped him. And to this day, he's still, I see him out, and I'm just like, I don't know. It just makes me want to just bust open because we were able to help him. And we've done that, for 40 years here, helping folks that we ordinarily wouldn't help. We're much more flexible, but the ability, and I'll say one thing, people think this thing about in-office financing. Compassionate finance is not in-office financing. It is financing that appears to be in-office financing, but it doesn't have your name, Dr. Joe, on here and saying you owe Dr. Joe. If you owe Dr. Joe, again, Dr. Joe, you can get paid later. You're driving a Porsche, or you've got the house on the hill, or whatever it is. No, they get statements, they get everything done, and it's automated. And they don't know the difference. Now, if you want to tell them, hey, it's me, that's fine. And I'm all about integrity when it comes to that. If somebody asks me, I said, yeah, we've arranged to do this for you. And they go, oh, okay, well, great, man. I'm so thankful. So anyway, but you think if you're sending out statements from Granbury Dental Center, they just don't get paid the same.
Mhm.
Or they see you call to collect on payments, and they see you on caller ID. They're not going to answer the phone. And so
Mhm.
don't get a don't get confused about the word in-house financing. This is alternative financing for them. It just happens to be something that you get to reap the benefit of the interest. And the other part of that is, if there's a lender, a subprime lender that's charging 15% instead of the 10 or 8 or whatever it is, and you don't want to, they do approve more people because they charge more to you up front. But you might say, I don't want to use them, but I still want to use Compassionate because I'm getting 9% interest. So if you get 15% taken off or you add 9% interest, that's 24%. That's not a bad return. So, but you just might have to wait a little bit to get your money over a period of time. And again,
Right.
I'd always rather get my money over a period of time than not get it at all. And
Mhm.
that's what's happening when you don't offer patient financing. You just don't get to work on them. And then they go to the cheapo depot. Then price becomes the biggest motivator for if they can do dentistry. And they end up going to the cheapo depot and having their crown done for $430, and it fails in 4 years or 3 years. They don't get the nutritional counseling that they need to understand why they have the crown needs and their periodontal disease and everything else. People want to go to the best dental practices in the country. They just want to be able to afford it. They just want to be able to afford it. And when they can, your practice will absolutely bust at the seams. And I've seen it in practices across the US for the last really 20 years, working with docs. And so this is something that I am so excited about AcceptCare. I think it's something that we wanted to do as Compassionate. We just didn't have the bandwidth to be able to do it. But now working with OrthoFi and working with everybody there, I mean, we've got an entire team now that's just created something that I think special.
Yeah. Yeah. Something we hear a lot of times working with orthodontists, and something that we really teach is you don't have to be the least expensive. You have to be the most affordable.
Bingo.
And it's just got to hit where the patient lives monthly, and if you can make it affordable. And I love that example that you gave where you actually pulled together a whole lot of pieces here, from the patient savings, from the little bit that they were approved for with third party, their insurance, and then you supplemented that with Compassionate. But it wasn't with the in-house. I love the point you made there. It wasn't Compassionate as in-house. It was Compassionate as an alternative source that they were getting statements from and had signed a loan agreement. So bringing all of those pieces together, that's really the message that we want to get to the market, that you have to have options for these patients. And so again, for those of you who may have missed it a little bit earlier, scan this QR code if you would like to see a demo and spend a little time with one of our representatives. Bruce, as always, it's always a joy to spend an evening with you.
Thanks,
And
Marla.
thank you so much. And thank you to all who've joined us.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Bye-bye.